Human resources. These people do not have a clue what they are doing. They have no knowledge of the different jobs that exist and what their usual tools are, or their skills as well, right? They apply tests that are not related to the job. For example, they want you to solve complex IQ tests or adding a button on a freaking website. What does being smart have to do with something almost anyone could do, right? Egalitarianism. Gender quotas or trying to provide equal opportunities for everyone by being forced is something that has been damaging business performance. Look, I am not against women or people that do not have the opportunities/abilities to do a work, but if we are forced to include a component that does not perform well for our needs, a system will be inefficient or not work at all. It is like integrating a guy to our business that was a B student at school just because he will cry if he does not get a job. We do not know the causes for his quote-unquote failure, but we could perhaps assume he did not put in the effort. If he did not like it or was not cut for it, he could or should have moved to other careers. But if it has to do with effort, we have to give him a chance when thousands of others worked there. Of? The same happens for women or unskilled people. If they desire the same retribution, they have to put in the same effort and output. We're not taking into account things such as bias or nepotism here, but those are subject to another talk. However, we have to do our best to succeed. Human nature and loss of values. This is perhaps the root of every problem we have in business. It is the most important. Greed. Businesses would cut everything that is expensive to them at the expense of good workers and customers. Do more with less. Possessiveness. This goes back to a couple of centuries ago, or perhaps from the very beginning of human existence, right? For instance, people that were monarchs owned a lot of land and had slaves to work on them. Or for example, nowadays many companies become monopolies and use immoral practices to keep competition away, taking the easy road. We seek for an easy path by studying something relatively easy and getting a constant paycheck. This is kind of mediocre, but if we were to solve bigger problems, the world would perceive our value as higher. We also seek for the highest paid jobs, which is not wrong, but if we do it for just the money, we start off poorly from there on. Corruption. Many companies just pay some fees to the governments to get a bigger reward after that. Normally, there would be a fair competition of businesses to select the one that benefits a lot of people, but sadly, money or relationships get in the way, and so the quality of service or product sucks. For example, we can speak about public roads, which are many times completely destroyed. Capitalism? Since when did people start working like slaves and did not enjoy their works? In fact, has the human being ever been able to make decisions and have an impact on what he or she does? Yes, several people have achieved that, but the majority of people often suffer and struggle to get by the month. Are all these millionaire guys slaving the worker class and living off of that? Is capitalism all to blame for? Let us think about it. The world created an amazing website to explain this, but they have found out that thanks to capitalism, wars have decreased a lot since instead of colonizing, they can now trade goods with other countries at the same or lower price it would cost them to buy weapons and colonize other countries. Human beings tend to work less hours per day nowadays. Obviously, this does not apply if you are exploited at work or work 2 or 3 jobs. And I think the most important result has been to reduce poverty and extreme poverty drastically. While we do not know the reasons for a lot of homeless people, we can conclude that it is not directly a cause of capitalism. Rather, it might have been due to human nature and the malice it usually carries. It is like using different kinds of knives. For example, many normal people would use a meat knife for cutting meat, right? While others might use it to steal. Capitalism is subject to the rules a certain jurisdiction has. For example, Garson wrote an article that certain agricultural companies came to a certain locality that used to produce healthy and natural fruits and crops. That company created modified plants that did not produce any seeds, which are typically used to regrow fruit. The government created certain policies and situations so that farmers could not continue using their original seeds, so they had to go and buy those expensive and not reusable modified crops from the multinational. Many of them did not have utilities, and the situation got too unmanageable. that many of them preferred not to continue living. This shows that while this system is more compatible with human beings than socialism, communism, or other systems, it has ways to be turned in favor for greedy people. So we might want to reflect about how lax neoliberalism is and whether or not some tighter rules for businesses could aid. Two lax labor laws. I know that it is bad to control companies and their costs, but we at least can control abuse towards their workers. There should be more entities to monitor complaints about companies. For instance, Nordic countries and the Netherlands have amazing policies of anti-bribing behaviors. Neoliberalism has caused some damage, and greedy businesses are using those lax rules to exploit their work. I have not researched about the consequences of deregulated capitalism, but at a first glance, it seems to be one of the causes for today's situation. We would have to compare countries that had regulated and deregulated capitalism to see how conditions changed. If you desire me to do a video about it, please leave a comment entitled CEOs. Do you know people that often speak pretty bad stuff about how people do not like to work, yet they offer trash conditions to work in? Do they not enforce overwork with nothing but disgusting pizzas for reward? Do they even know what employees do and sacrifice to make that in company survive? What about taking some of those jobs for you to experience? Do you think of the reasons why someone would sacrifice, put their effort and energy into something they do not believe nor feel comfortable in? Executives makes job harder and takes credit for everyone else's work.